I'm very honest with my kind of approach.
Yes.
If there's something that annoys me, I'll tell you.
Yeah, direct.
And that's kind of why we're here as well. Right?
Exactly. Like,
Well,
you know what they
that's for
say
sure.
about common sense? It's not that common. So,
All good.
like I said to you on the phone, each like kind of guest that I've chosen is to offer a different perspective because I want it. The purpose is to make me great again, to have conversations. Like I've been very lucky enough to have been around so many different types of people. Like I'm from the country, right?
Yeah.
I'm from Shepparton. So where I grew up, people, drug addicts, alcoholics, high school dropouts, and then I worked with multi-millionaires, doctors, lawyers, CEOs for like 12 years as a health coach. And then I've done triathlon, I've done modeling, I've done DJing. So I've met so many different people from so many different walks of life. And what it's given me is a unique, I guess, perspective into different people and how much their environment impacts them. And I don't know if you've heard the word...
Well, it makes you a more worldly person, right?
It does.
It makes you adaptable. It makes you kind of understand what life is about a little bit more.
Different perspectives rather than just say there's what's called a confirmation bias, right? So if someone who's religious, they believe unequivocally that this is the only way. You get people who that this is that's the lens at which they look through. When you've lived, which I'm sure that you have, and we can talk a bit more about that. I know a small amount of some of the stuff that you've done and where you've been and the different experience you had, but I'd love to, obviously have more understanding of that and what's brought you here today. But as I was saying, the purpose of the podcast is really to get people who have their one footy group of mates for their entire life and who aren't as worldly to go, hey, cool, here's some conversations you might not have thought about. Here, I just had a guy on before who was a personal trainer, lived in the same area his entire life and got cancer, and he beat cancer. And he was saying that running a business was more stressful for him than overcoming cancer. It was like, and we talked about what led to it. So like, I feel like there could be so many people that could watch that podcast and be like, fuck, like this isn't what a man is. This is what a man is. So I've also got women where they're going to be talking about how they used to be a feminist and now they completely believe the other things because of certain ideas. So I guess in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is from what I've seen of you, obviously there's modeling, there's traveling, there's some TV appearances, there is some flack that you copped, online and some stuff like that. That to me, with
a capital F.
When I saw that, I mean, I'm not saying that you and I are best friends, that we know each other like really well, that we hang out on Sundays, but when you spend even a small amount, I'm a pretty good judge of character. I know who's a good person, who's this, who's that. And I also relate a lot to, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I'm a man, but I'm not a jock. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you're a worldly person.
Yeah.
A lot of those, like if we go straight into, let's say like The Bachelor, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say that 90% of those guys, they maybe fit into more of the typical Aussie, would you say that might be the case? Because the way I felt like they painted you is just like not... I'll
tell you what, like that. Okay, if we're going to get into the nitty gritty straight away, it's I'd prefer to get it out of the way anyway.
Yes.
So let's start there because that's usually the first question that people ask. But when I was cast, I would call it cast for my role at on The Bachelorette. The one thing that I first noticed was that number one, I was the only Eastern European, full Eastern European background. We have very different kind of perceptions, understanding, what was going on behind the scenes with all the Aussie guys.
Yeah.
It was so different. It was basically locker room stuff,
that's
like old school locker room stuff.
That's what I was kind of seeing because, like, for me, I'm not. Like, my brother's like my best friend, right? He grew up, he's still got the same best mates that he all did footy with and played sports in high school mates. Like, I've never had that and still don't have those types of relationships. Sometimes I've envied that, but I realize as I've gotten older, like, that's just not me.
No, I've got groups of friends that I sometimes, look at and go, you know what? I wish I was closer to you guys.
Yeah.
But I just know that I 100% won't fit in because I don't have that jock kind of like vibe about me. I'm definitely much more European in my approach, and that is I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah.
I'm very honest with my kind of approach.
Yes.
If there's something that annoys me, I'll tell you.
Yeah, direct.
You know, I'm very direct.
My wife's Italian. I mean, I'm an honorary Italian with the way I move my hands and also my directness.
Yeah, and it's but at the same time, like if I really look into, I mean, I had a very strong Christian upbringing.
Me too.
Throughout, you know, up until probably 20 when I stopped going to church with my parents, and then I still believe in God.
Yes,
but I have my own personal understanding of what that is.
Yeah.
And I've always strived to be the best person and the best man that I can be to everyone, no matter what you know, no matter where you come from. And when I was in the mansion at the Bachelorette, like I could see what was going on behind the scenes in the locker room, what I would call, you know, whether it's in the kitchen or whatever else when the cameras were off. And a lot of those guys were talking so much shit about the Bachelorette.
Yes.
I want to do this.
The girl whose show it was.
Yeah, I want to do this to her. I want to do that. You know, but and I was always on the sidelines going, that's some fucked up shit, man. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, I was the one kind of trying to protect her, but what ended up happening is because I was so upfront with my opinions in regards to what I heard in the background from all the guys as well who were egging me on to try and say this, that I ended up getting the one that got, you know, I ended up shooting myself in the foot and being made into the villain.
Yes.
So,
well, I think anytime anyone's different, this is what society does, right? Anytime anyone's different, it's an easy target. It's much harder for them to target. You know, there's one of two ways that they go. They either find the most wild of the jocks and then go, oh, this is what jocks do, or they find...
And he's crazy.
Or there's, you know, obviously, and we'll get into this as well, we've traveled the world. I actually know you originally from the modeling space, so we did a runway show together, but you might not know this, but I did... what's that suit brand?
Godwin Charlie.
And you were there. I mean, I don't know how many seasons that you did with them, but you're basically like Godwin Charlie poster boy. And so that's when I first came up, this motherfucker's goddamn good looking.
Oh, thanks, mate.
I'm like, God damn.
I don't mean to give you any shit, but I'm just happy I kept my hair, mate.
Yeah. It was receding at the time. In fact, like we will get into some more modelling stories later because that's.
I'll tell you what, there was a little bit of kind of thinning there, which I got worried for a second, and I was like, do you know what? If it did happen, straight shave, straight up. As well. So we would have been a mirror image.
You can always thank your family for this, but sitting down at Christmas, I already knew it was thin. You know when people went through that stage where it was short on the sides and then you kind of slicked it back, I don't know, 5, 7, 8 years ago.
Yes.
I was doing that and I was DJing at the time as well. And I saw a DJ, there's two things that happened. One, my brother or my sister, I can't remember which one of them, I'm sitting at the Christmas dinner table or something like that, and they walked, I'm sitting down, they walked past and go, oh my God, have you seen the top of your head? And I'm like, oh,
did it start from the back?
No, it started from the front, but you could, because I had it was combed, like it was had that kind of slick, that look.
Just get rid of it, man.
And I saw a DJ photo, I played at Porn & Co, and I'm like knee deep in a set, and I'm looking down, and it's also sweat and gel, so it's kind of party, and it was just like, you know when people get a comb over?
Yeah.
Mine was a comb back. I wasn't actually aware of how thin that it was underneath until I saw this photo. It was just like black lines and then just bald and then black. It was like, oh my God. So
listen, Jason Statham has made it so cool. So cool.
Super masculine. But going back to what we were saying before.
And that's kind of why we're here as well, right?
Exactly. Like we'll go into what the Make Men Great Again, you know, mission is and things like that, and how I think that, you know, what your story is important. But if we go back to let's say the Bachelor thing for a second, what you were saying is like you're in the house, you've gone through this situation with these guys, and what I was saying was that they marked you as the villain, right? And the villain's easy to do. It's either they play up on ideas that people already have in their mind. Yeah. So one of those ideas is that models are dumb or models are this. People love to hate models because it just seems like, how can that person get paid thousands of dollars? The I think perception
based on winning the genetic lottery.
The perception is that somehow that that they're superficial or that they're less intelligent. I know some very obviously met a lot of different models, and there's some fantastic people in any industry, and there's going to be some idiots in any industry. But I thought that was very lame that they kind of and just anyone with any brain. Which unfortunately is day and age.
There was a lot of backlash.
You know what they say about common sense? It's not that common.
Yeah.
For me, looking at that from the outsider's perspective, I just saw straight through it. I was just like, this is the lamest thing I've ever seen. Probably because my experience with being modeling.
It was extremely good editing. Even today when I watch some of the newer kind of episodes or series, that season 1, I think... my episode, I was only on there for a few episodes, but that episode almost outnumbered the finale.
You're kidding?
Yeah. So the finale was like 100,000 less, more or something like that.
Well, that just goes to show that in every...
And then I was on the ads as well for about 3 months before the lead up. So the build up was already there and the pigeonholing was already done. And I just kind of thought, I was hoping for the best. I was like, my parents are going to be proud of me here, you know. Hopefully
Eastern
it goes
European
right.
parents.
And then when we watched the first episode with my parents right next to me, they just looked at me and went, David, that's not you. That's not you. I was like, it was a pretty sad moment. Bit of a teary.
Well, I saw all the shit that was going on, online. I genuinely felt really bad. I was like, I don't know if you remember this, but I think I may have even messaged you something.
Yeah.
But
coming realistically, I get it. People kind of saw a side of me that looked quite rough and mean and whatever else, but the context was always chopped out. And the context, I think you can really make someone look not that nice if you chop out the context and you're a forward person.
Of course. Look at what's happening online with whether you love or hate them. People like Andrew Tate, people like Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand, all of these guys. It's there's a way that the world likes to work, and there's a way that the people of power, whether that be TV powers or larger powers,
you've got to take everything with a grain of salt. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of good things that those guys say, and to a certain extent, I'm a fan of all those guys because they're really kind of standing up for a lot of the negative woke kind of stuff that's out there these days.
100%.
But at the same time, they're not perfect. You don't
have to agree with all of it. And I think I was chatting this with my brother when he came up to Noosa and visited the other week. I was saying, look, do you want to model Andrew Tate's life? Do you need to have 10 girlfriends?
I wouldn't want it.
No, I'm very happily married. And I think that the reason why I want to do this is because I felt like, okay, who have we got? And I'm not saying I'm that person, by the way. What I want to do is start conversations with different people to let other people decide for themselves what a great man is. Yeah, and conversations with men and women, because at the moment you've got your Jordan Petersons, you've got your Andrew Tate, you've got your Joe Rogan, you've got these guys. But one thing one of my coaches said to me, Scott, would you want to have one of these guys' lives? Would you want to be put in remain in jail? Would you? I'm like, no. So, okay, cool. I think that was a necessary. I don't want to say necessary evil, but I think it was they gave a lot of people, including myself, permission to share the things that we all felt and were afraid to share in silence. Like the amount of just beating that men have taken in the last 5 years is like there's just a campaign of.
It started with the Me Too movement, right? So this actually really comes back to a massive life philosophy that I have, and that is I try to live my life in equilibrium or a happy medium, and that is that. Everyone asks themselves, what is the meaning of life?
Yes.
Right? And you just mentioned, would you want to be Joe Rogan? Would you want to be Andrew Tate? Jordan Peterson? I think that the meaning of life to me is a happy medium. If you eat too much sugar, you're going to get sick. If you exercise too much, it's not going to be good for you.
Yep.
If you eat too much, it's not going to be good for you. If you're too famous, it's not going to be good for you. If you've got too much money, it's not going to be good for you. If you've got too little money, it's not going to be good for you.
That's the extremes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the extremes that are actually not, you really, the meaning of life for me, like I mentioned, is just having a certain level of inner peace and happiness and gratitude for what you have, and not striving so much that it's actually switching your whole health and mentality into override where you want more and more and more and more, because greed is a huge kind of lack.
I think that, and I think to your point, beautiful point, by the way, and I loved how you illustrated that. And I think, having been a coach and been work with men a lot closely, because it's easy to say, okay, this is what we should do. But the reality is very few people actually do it. They might know that you shouldn't do things to excess. They might know, everyone knows these things, right? Yeah. But the difference is, how do you actually live in alignment with those beliefs? And it's challenging. And I don't think that you are living in alignment with them all the time. I think of it like bumper bowls, where I believe in God, not necessarily in the old school religious sense. As you said, I have my own relationship, and I've found that my intuition and my regret will guide me and act like bumper bowls towards, I know when I'm out of alignment. I know when I should and should be. We all know these things, right? You just got to be honest with yourself and stop. The ego has a very funny way of kind of making yourself, protecting yourself from feeling bad. No, you should, like, not saying you should sit around and be depressed or anything, but there's a reason for the pain. Pain is what motivates us to change. So
absolutely.
But going back to the kind of purpose and meaning of life, I love what you said there with the extremes, and I'll put my hand up and say, like, I'm a reformed extremist. Absolute.
There's a lot of extremists out there these days.
And that's my point, is where
even if they try to be healthy, if they go overboard with the whole just eating kind of like, vegan or vegetarian or any of that kind of stuff, or supplements or, I find running marathons extremely kind of like taxing on the body as well. And that's an extreme,
Yeah. Just want to take a quick moment to break out of the podcast episode right now and just let you know that if you can subscribe to this channel, it will go a long way. We have a clear mission and movement to make men great again. And to do that, I can't do it by myself. I need you guys to do it too. And how we can do that is by more people signing up to this channel. That allows us to get more people onto the podcast, and that allows us to share this message about mass media, about marriage, about money, about mindset, about healing, so that more men can be great again and ultimately impact the world. So be a part of the mission, subscribe to the channel. We release episodes every Monday, and I'm sure that you're going to find it really valuable. So if you've found that you've enjoyed it so far, take a chance, subscribe to this channel. Goes a long way. We're really grateful. And anyways, back to the episode.
You find that a lot of people that run marathons professionally, their bodies actually start losing a lot of muscle mass. And it's, they're fainting at the end of these marathons and whatnot.
It's definitely not because I've run marathons and I've been pretty competitive in triathlon as well. And
don't get me wrong, I want to do one. It's like a bucket list thing for me.
Well, it's one of those things where
it is.
I would say that balance isn't always judged by the day, but also by the month and by the year.
Yeah.
So a marathon once a year, or as a bucket list, or once in your life as a bucket list, it's going to be fine. You'll regulate back to a state of balance. That's not too extreme if you look at your life. But if you were to run a marathon every weekend, like say you're David Goggins, exactly. Well, he's got stress fractures all through his body. He's got constant, that's the absolute, stay hard. It's the absolute, extreme. And I think for a lot of men, they see your David Goggins. They see all these videos saying discipline and this and this and that. And that was me, absolute extremist. Underneath that, what I have learned is that it's always a feeling of insignificance or insufficiency or doubts and fears around who we are as a man.
As well.
It's 99% of what's driving the behavior is actually an emotion or a belief or a story about who we think we are, or in most cases, who we think we're not. So for a lot of my life, I didn't feel masculine. I wasn't aware of this until I started doing a lot more deeper work. But the a lot of the things I did was actually not because I wanted to do it, but it was because if I do this, then I get that.
Yeah.
So if I get a six pack, I'm not doing it to be healthy. I'm doing it because then I'll look good. Then I won't feel like a fat slob, or maybe I'll attract women. Or if I DJ, then I get this. Or if I model, then I get that. And I think a lot of people, going back to your point of the extremisms, even if they knew that knowledge, there's so much to unpack underneath that drives the influence of that. And I think the purpose of having this show and having different guests on is offering different perspectives and seeing.
Mate, I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40 in May. And I, to this day, still feel extremely insecure about my appearance, about my achievements, about things that I've done. I mean, I've got Aesthetica, which, the hand wash.
Yes, give us a look. So David's bought me a present.
There you go, mate.
Thank you very much.
So Aesthetica is actually a huge passion project of mine. It's a hand and body wash, a moisturising mist, and a little candle and some stuff coming.
By the way, and this is a perfect example, like, do you think... And this is, by the way, there's nothing against the footy jock. Like, I've got some great mates that are the footy jocks, but if this doesn't sum up minimalism to me. What I think when I think of David, I think of stylish. I think of worldly. And this is a representation of who you are. Like for me, when I realized that it's okay for me to be like a self-confessed shopaholic, it's okay for me to not paint the regular picture of men. Do you know what I mean? I'm more emotional. I'm like.
Well, guess what? That's my interpretation of unisex, actually. So I'm a massive aficionado of designer furniture. It probably comes from the modelling world that we were in.
It does. It's style in general. When you're around so much.
Yeah, you get to you create your own kind of image of what you like, and I've kind of grown into that.
You're exposed to it.
Concrete houses and super minimalism.
If you see a house, it looks funny thing. My dad came up. And my little sister, who's like, my dad got remarried. My little sister's like, I think, was she, I'll say 11. I don't know.
Yeah.
Feel bad about that. So she's like, give me a video. And she goes, oh, it looks like a hotel. Everything's like perfectly styled. Every cushion. There's not a cushion in my house. There's not a fucking cushion in my house that is like not perfectly. Even if my daughter, she runs around, everyone's to me, your house is going to be a mess when you have kids. I run around.
It's OCD as well, I think.
I was actually diagnosed with OCD when I was younger.
I have it without being diagnosed.
I wouldn't call it OCD anymore because I don't get stressed about it that much.
I don't get stressed about it, but I still like my blanket on top of the bed in a certain way. That's the thing.
Folded in your corner, and you don't want this tag flying. For me,
I'm the one scrubbing the kitchen like at night when everyone's in bed.
No, I have cleaners for that. But that's what I'm saying. Like
they can't do it as good as I do, though.
Really,
the cleaners
them. You got to train them.
It's been tough, to be honest, but I don't get upset with myself about it anymore. Like, so if it's not done, I'm yeah, cool, no worries, I can leave it for a little bit. But there is a certain level of perfectionism and OCD. I think it's kind of, like when I spoke to...
Which is also linked to greatness, by the way. You think Steve Jobs, you think he was going to have a dirty bench at night? Well,
when I spoke to Lily, who was my booker at Chadwick Models when I was, I did probably 15 good years of full-time work with those guys, top 10 in Australia for a while there. She goes, David, the one great thing about you over the years was you were never late once to a job. We're talking 20 to 35 kind of years, and never once late, still went out, still had my little parties and whatnot when we were younger, as you know as well. We didn't mind hitting up 161 every once in a while.
We run into each other near the bathroom one time.
But we're there for the music, mate. We're there for the music.
The music and the fun and the
so everything,
disco.
Equilibrium, everything in moderation, right? So it was basically a certain level of professionalism, and whether the job started at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., I was always 15 minutes early, always on time, never looking like an absolute, nutbag from a night before or something like that.
I did the last runway show that I did. It might have even been, I'm not sure if you did that one. It was Fashion Week.
Yeah.
And Melbourne Spring Fashion Week.
I think I did come once.
I did. I went out and was supposed to, like, I was walking the next day, and I'd been doing like whatever, 4 or 5 days in a row. It was the last day, and I got a bit excited. Went out the night before with some old like friends that were into some stuff, and anyways, let's just say that I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
Not a wink.
Wow.
Not a wink. Like,
and you looked your best ever.
And it was in like thousands of people, runway show, cameras everywhere, and it was a swimwear. So I mean, nothing.
Oh man,
nothing but nothing.
You would have been cut.
Nothing but I was ripped as shit. No, I was training for ages, ripped and tanned. I'm in the line. Someone's lathering me up with fucking gold sparkles or something. I don't know what it was, but out of the 10 people that were walking. He said, all right, Scott, you get shades. I'm not sure if it's because they saw my eyes.
Nah.
Or whether they just thought this matches the look. But I was like, thank fucking Christ. It's not a great idea in terms of partying too much and then going out and...
I've just always found that if obviously...
But
if
I was on
out,
time.
Yeah, mate.
All the time.
It's not the hardest job, but the thing is... it's long days. So like you've got to kind of, you don't really have a moment to kind of breathe, and you've got to be switched on.
Like we've only got a few lights here, but being under the lights, even when I'm working with clients in front of a computer screen and I've got the lights really fucking buzz your eyes out. Does something to your...
I don't even want to look at them.
Does something to your brain. Lights are not good for you. So I would find at the end of the day, I'm like kind of tired, but buzzed, but like...
Yeah, my eyes are extremely light sensitive. So like any kind of glare outside, especially when driving, like I don't want to say it's because of all the lights that have, that I've been exposed to over the years. But like definitely sometimes when the photographer is just like, look towards the light. And it's like 1,000,000 watts of like light hitting you straight in the eyeball. And you're just like, like it's and you have to force yourself. Yeah. Sometimes they tell you, close your eyes for 2 seconds and then open and look straight into the light.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's not damaging, then I can't imagine.
That's pretty much the same thing that happened to me when I did the Toad about 6 months ago. 5-MeO DMT, ever heard of that?
No, DMT?
Yeah.
No. Well, I know of it.
It's one of the most powerful psychedelics in the world.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson made it famous on, I think, Joe Rogan podcast. He said that's what, when you were speaking about his ego, and it just said to me, it just basically just made it his bitch.
Is that the one where they lock themselves in like a box or something like that? And
I never heard of locking in a box.
Well, it's like full emotional desensitizing, isn't it? Like something along those lines?
No, it's basically you smoke it in this glass. Not that I'm promoting drugs, but I did it for healing purposes with the right people in the right setting. But they call it the God something. I can't know what to call it, because you literally it's fucking like the most crazy. No, you don't feel like God. You literally
understand
transcend,
the world.
And it just you literally just all you see is white light.
It's like ayahuasca and all that kind of stuff.
It's exactly like ayahuasca.
Yeah.
It's obviously similar active ingredient, but which I did last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely like phenomenal. Really changed my life.
Yeah.
Big part of this journey of doing this podcast, but yeah, basically you see the white light and it's just like this overwhelming.
It's an interesting thing. It makes you, I mean, a lot of the stories that I hear and a lot of the different perspectives of people's lives over the years, and especially people that have been exposed to that kind of stuff, I think that as years go by, people are understanding that there is a lot more of a spiritual to the world than just
if you search, you'll find. If you just believe there's nothing, like there's no God, there's no spirit, there's no nothing, then of course you'll never like, experience. Who is God? You'll never experience that. Well, I had the same discussion with my dad, because I grew up Christian as well, right?
Who is God? Like, is God
a man with a big beard? It's like Santa Claus sitting up in the sky.
Is God the dude that created this whole simulation? That could be God.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what do we? No one really knows, man. Like, the Bible has been changed 1 billion times by the time it's reached now, because it's gone through the Crusades and through Christianity and Catholicism.
My
and
wife's
everything.
Italian, and she said to me that it's a known fact in Italy that they specifically kept chapters out of the Bible, and they kind of curated the chapters that they liked, and just got rid of the other ones like the Mary Magdalene and some other.
Exactly. There's a whole bunch of other books that were taken out of the Bible. And then the other cool thing that I heard the other day, I think it was on Joe Rogan, was that Rome didn't fall. It just became the Vatican.
Oh, wow.
That's insane. That's where all the money went. It went to the Vatican, and they changed into a church, right? So that kind of theory.
If you get into history and you start really like, the more time I've had on my hands in the last few years, as I've kind of, I guess, become a little more successful and had not needing to be the person who's technically doing the jobs in my businesses, but be able to have team, and it just means that I've had a lot more time. And I've learned that for my personality, like I'm ADHD, I'm also high functioning autism. I need a lot of space between doing stuff. Otherwise I get so ramped up. That's when you're going to see me doing extremes, drinking, drugs, fucking wiling out.
My girlfriend.
I have to really, in between everything, I need to be peaceful. I need to slow down. That's when otherwise I'm just.
That's when you're
like,
your best.
I'm just like a fucking machine gun, just shooting. And that's that version of me goes up, and then he comes crashing down. That's without any substances that I might have used to cope in the past. So, I'm very, very mindful. I'm an amazing CEO, husband, father when I'm doing less. It's not about how much. My old me was like, how productive can I be? And I was all about high performance. And as I've gotten older, I actually get a lot more done, and I'm a lot more powerful when I actually do. And I'm not saying a little bit less. I mean a lot, like a lot less, like a third of what I of kind of what I used to do.
That's good.
But
I think the whole one big thing that I live by is never let your emotions override your intelligence.
Yes,
it's a big one for me.
Again, it's one of those things though,
because being Eastern European, you can be a little bit emotional about things and kind of try and very animated with. Like as you can see here, I'm feeling like I'm Bobby Althoff here, like right now. Like I'm just like sitting here like, yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. But like that's part of the lesson that I wanted to go through in the last year or two of being able to calmly approach a conversation, not get too animated. Yes, I still sometimes, and many times I still do get kind of overwhelmed and go crazy.
I never took any prescription drugs ever, and I was told too many times. Because I like being, and this is why it's great to have different conversations with different people and for different perspectives, but I like my animated self. I feel like I don't want to lose that version of me that, like, if this is like wiling out at like a 12 out of 10.
Well, you have a very kind looking face though. When I get animated, people think I'm angry.
Oh, okay.
So
that's
it's just
the Eastern European. You go into like the Russian oligarch style.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm telling you right now, like this is amazing. It's like, calm down, man. Like, so genuinely, like I think my girlfriend told me the other day, she goes, David, you need to calm down with the animated because people will misinterpret it for you being angry.
My ex told me that as well.
But she gets it though. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's just like, she's cool. You can be yourself and do your thing. But definitely other people can misunderstand it. And I think that was a big part of the Bachelorette as well. What happened? A lot of people on TV misunderstood my kind of motivations, and like I said, I don't want to harm anyone or be mean to anyone. And I think that the big thing was that I got accused of judging Sam Frost of
that's right. It was the Sam Frost season.
Liking soccer players. Do you know what I mean? Like that she is spending more time with the soccer player. The guys in the background were all saying that to me, like, because we were put into the same apartment for 2 days before we went into the mansion.
Gotcha.
So we were best mates. The soccer player and the model, we were best mates. And I had the confidence to go up to him and go, hey, Michael, like, you've had enough time with her because he was with her for like 2 hours or something, which wasn't really shown.
Yeah, gotcha.
I said the other guys want to go have a chat to her as well because
come on, fair play.
Fair play. That's bro code, right?
Yeah.
And when I went in and had a chat to Michael, that's when they made it look like I could cut in.
Yeah.
But I was trying to cut his lunch. I'm like, but he's my best mate.
It's better
you know what I
TV
mean?
that way, isn't it?
Oh, mate, and then it all just went south from there. And then I was just like,
In marketing, there's a book. I can't remember. I won't quote the name because I don't want to misquote it. But it basically, I think it's the story of a brand or brand story. It's a very famous book in marketing, and it talks about in every movie, every show, every book ever created for that story. It's called the story brand. If you really want to sell a brand and tell a story, you have to have a hero and a villain.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
TV shows, they know this. So they choose who's the better in this season or in this show, in this episode, who can we really make people
Mate, it was
hate?
season 1.
Who can you were season 1, were you?
Season 1.
Who can we
no
make?
one even freaking knew that there was going to be like a villain and a hero.
But
whatever.
I mean, what I'm saying is that the people who run the TV shows, they know that.
They know.
They know
Yeah.
that every episode there's a villain.
Well, there's
Every episode, maybe not. There's different.
I think by season 3, the public already knew. Okay, so there's a villain cast every season. And
that's what makes great TV. Unfortunately, somebody has to bear the grunt of it, and it's not just on the show, but like with social media now. You know, it's a tough place when you're getting just. I'm not sure if you watched the David Beckham.
Love it.
Absolutely amazing.
Love
I was thinking,
Beckham.
fuck, can you imagine
Mate,
being?
but do you know
Can you
what-
imagine being him at the height of just everybody hating
Do you
his
know
guts?
what I learnt from that and what I felt like? I felt
absolute resilience.
I felt like I had resilience to get over my thing, but to be honest with you, the one thing that I fucked up with, like after the show, was I should have not cared more.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
and
that's
moved
kind of-
on and proved people wrong by continuing my work and being the best I can going forward, instead of worrying and being like, playing the victim is shit. It is shit.
Well, it's just people. Anytime nobody likes, it just makes people feel uncomfortable. And I'm not commenting to say whether you were or whether you weren't playing the victim.
There was some rough commentary. Like there was a start. It was the start of Instagram as well. And to be honest with you, I feel pretty sad for the people that genuinely thought that what was shown was real. And you know,
by the way, people
death
still
threats.
People literally.
Still believe.
Like I think
There's
just
still a lot of
most
people that believe it.
Most of the world, I would say, not even just talking about your particular show and instance, but most people have this thing with authority. They just trust them. They just trust the doctors.
There's a certain
they trust
level.
the last couple of years of all of the jabs and this and that. They just trust it like without even. I'm not saying that you have to be a conspiracy theorist, but in everything you've got to understand that there are motives of people, especially when you get money and power involved, and even in a show like The Bachelor.
Yeah.
How does The Bachelor make money? They make money by drama.
Mm.
Drama. The more drama you can get,
Yeah.
the more that ads have to pay. Let's say we have a
the
million,
more drama,
a million
the
people
more
tune in,
viewers. Yeah.
more viewers equals we can charge more for the spots in the ads. So instead
Absolutely.
of charging 100,000, we can charge 500,000 if we make, and you're just the piece of trash that gets
absolutely.
that's making them all the money.
Yeah.
And
Well, the one thing that happened actually straight after I got kicked off, a whole bunch of people called into the actual office for Shine, which was the company that was running all the production, and wanted to do interviews with me. But because it was so early on in the show, and because the viewership was so high in that very beginning of the season, they cancelled all my interviews. So I had Kyle and Jackie O, I had a whole bunch of radio stations, some TV. I was supposed to go on that show with the celebrities. What was it called?
like
It's the comedians are on there, and you come on and ask them questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what
Anyways,
it was called.
there's
So it was a whole bunch of stuff
circuit
that got cancelled because it was like, okay, David's going to be taking attention away from Sam and from the rest of the contestants going forward. And it was only a 6 or 7 episode first season. So it went quickly, and, you know, they wanted me forgotten about as quickly as possible. So was a bit rough, like from that perspective.
They want to purport their version of you.
Yeah.
And if they had have just this version
they wanted to keep the villain.
Yeah, they want to keep the villain. You're going to mess that up if you come on and say, hey, look, my belief is
$1 million.
these are my beliefs about life. I'm a former Christian. I believe this is what creates a good life, non-extremist. It's going to be like,
if I opened up about nice things.
If you just open up about just the things you actually believe,
Yeah,
not
changed perspective.
Not a toxic situation with a bunch of the environment itself lends itself to, I think, if you're not for me personally, I was thinking if I went on that show, I would have ended up probably being the villain for sure, because I probably would have. They would have pumped me up, got me all excited. I would have, probably been less,
and they know how to manipulate as well.
Less fitting in probably the group,
mate.
And then
they pulled the wool over my eyes so badly that's why everything happened that happened.
Yeah.
Because in the interview process before you go into the house, they ask you about your life and whatever else. I told them, listen, I was 4 years old when I came here from communist Poland. We were relatively poor back in Poland. We were waiting for tickets to buy bread and meat. And I remember a lot of this stuff in flashes. It was a very simple life. And then when we came to Australia, we had an aunt here from the 50s and an uncle here from the 70s, and we lived with them for 6 or 8 months before we moved into our first commission house, So I lived in commission housing at the very start for about up until 1995 or something like that. And went to school, was very lucky to that my parents rented or lived in these houses out in the eastern suburbs. Got bullied I didn't get the Aussie jokes. I didn't get the humour. I didn't understand AFL. I didn't understand all that. So all through primary school, it was pretty bad bullying.
Yeah.
And then high school was pretty bad bullying to the point where I was coming home and crying in the corner of my bed, going, like I don't want to live anymore, And that kind of stuff really affected me, and I feel like.
And that's beautiful for you sharing, and I can relate to that massively. Not to obviously the coming from Eastern Europe part, but not to the bullying part, but just to the coming home and crying part, and just the not wanting to be here anymore and all that type of jazz. But I mean, so they knew that and they did it anyway.
Yeah,
because that's not just bullying. Like it's like ganging up. It's everything,
dude. There was a time in high school where there was a group of guys which I used to call them. Have you ever seen Waterworld?
Yeah,
the smokers. Do you remember the smokers? Because they were always the guys.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, it's Kevin Costner, one of my favorite movies.
Great movie.
So I used to call them the smokers, and they were all kind of the equivalent of like drug addicts and whatever else at the school. I went Campbell High, public school, but very good public school.
Yeah.
At one point they were walking past. There was about 5 of them. No reason. I was a good-looking, pretty small for my kind of age, like kid. Didn't shoot up until after year 12 anyway. And the guys turned around and saw me at my locker. 5 of them around me. I turned around and guy just literally smacks me straight in the head. I hit my head on the back of the locker and literally passed out on the ground.
Wow.
Hundreds of kids in the hallway.
Yeah.
Everyone walked past, went to class. I woke up like maybe, I don't know whether it was 2 minutes or 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And I looked around and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? Do you know what I mean? Locker's still open. Closed my locker, got my books or whatever, went to the class, and there was only one seat at the back of the class next to the dude that just knocked me out. So I went and sat down in the chair, and I literally turned my chair off to the side. And this happened from years. This dude was just an absolute cunt. Do you know what I mean? And it happened up until year 11 where he got kicked out. He ended up going to juvie for derailing a train or something like that.
So great bloke.
Yeah, just a really nasty kid. So, but I mean, this is why I love books like Grit by Angela Duckworth, right? She basically tells you no matter what adversity kind of you're facing, just Beckham situation, like in the documentary. Just keep going, keep doing what you're doing, and
focus on what you can do, and do your best to let go of what you can't.
Yeah, and that's why I'm also a big fan of Stoicism. A lot of people don't understand the real kind of deep meaning of Stoicism. It's about kind of not worrying about things that are out of your control.
Yes.
And to keep moving forward because things will get better.
Yeah.
And if you have enough grit and have enough kind of motivation to keep moving forward, and everyone does deserve their moment.
Yes.
And I think a lot of great men these days, like, you know, they get put in situations where they feel vulnerable and they feel like they're not the provider, or they can't succeed
have insecurities.
Like insecurities, yeah. So every man can have their moment, but genuinely, my advice is pick yourself back up again and charge on forward, because to be honest with you... Think
of David, at least you haven't got half of Australia hating you at that time, and like, you know, like a Beckham situation.
Yeah.
I love what you said there about the grit thing, and I think what I was thinking as I was kind of listening to you talk is that my belief is that I'll share. Somebody asked me a question on a podcast a few years ago, and he said, "What's the worst thing that turned out to be the best thing?" And I actually said depression. It's a bit of an interesting answer. The reason is, like, I really love who I am today. I'm wacky, I'm out there, but I'm loving, I'm kind, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, I've had lots of challenges, but I've always worked on them to become a better person and ideally become a great man. And like, I think people who have had the most pain actually become the best people in my mind, because it allows you to build grit. At that time, you might have felt like leaving, but you didn't.
Mate,
you went through it. And I would argue that the fact that happened to you, yes, it probably created some trauma.
Makes you stronger.
It makes you stronger, right? Yeah. It's like scars. Scars, some sort of an insertion or some sort of thing goes into the skin, and what happens? It builds back stronger. What happens when you go and you tear your muscles when you go and, like, not big tears, but...
That's why skin needling is so popular right now, because they found that if you slightly tear your skin and it repairs itself quite quickly, but it's not a natural... it actually naturally produces collagen, and you know, it's basically rebuilding the building blocks of what it was in the first place, which is extremely valuable.
So I think the concept of that, like, obviously the purpose of the podcast is to really offer different perspectives to different people, not just on, obviously there's the journey, right? So the journey of different people's lives, so people can go, okay, cool. Yeah. Like, whether you're a model or a plumber, we all have insecurities as a man, like, and there's no shame around them. And I think it's really important that people understand that you can do stuff about it. Yeah. So, I mean, at that time...
there's a lot of pressure as well. Like, I mean, these days... I mean, I've actually stopped kind of following a lot of the TikTok trends and stuff like that because I just found that it was making me feel dumber. You know, a lot of...
Like, which in particular? Because I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of Instagram shorts. I'm not on TikTok at all, but most of mine, because the algorithm, I don't see many people dancing. Most of mine is mostly Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan.
Well, that's I've got a lot of that. I've got a lot of that as well. But for some reason, for the few times that I've been on there, there's a lot of interviews with girls at, like, university campuses and stuff like that. And it's like,
that one,
how much do you want your man to earn? You know, like, it's like... I wouldn't date a man unless he earned like $150,000 or $200,000. I'm like, really, man? Like, I don't care if my future partner or wife or whatever makes 5 cents.
I think it's different for a man, and in my opinion, I think it's different for a man and a woman, though, because I think without going too deep into gender roles and understanding masculine,
anything under 5 cents, though, then she's out.
I think for a woman. I know from my experience and from reading books and speaking to experts and things like that, naturally a woman, and if we go back to Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules of Life, women are attracted to, for a primary reason, to be protected and provided for, to keep themselves safe. Now, I'm not saying that women can't do that for themselves these days, but they'll thrive better emotionally when
there's still that instinct. Maybe
that's what I'm saying. It's 110%, and I've seen it.
No matter how much they say they don't.
Yes, it's not a conscious thing. It's the same reason why birds they're not taught how to fly. They just know how to fly. They know how to.
Yeah.
I'm not a bird expert, but they in the certain times of season they fly this direction, they fly that direction.
You've had a couple of birds.
Yeah, I've had a couple of birds. I'm not an expert on birds, but yeah, I guess I think it is different. Like men and women, I used to be more on the side of like we're all equals, and we're definitely equal. Like
we're just different.
But we're just different people. You can't compare a man to a woman. But going back to your point,
and I'm super happy to adapt to anything that my partner that I love wants. Do you know what I mean? Like if she wants to wear the pants, then great, you can wear the pants. I just want to do my thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and if you need help at any moment in time, I'll be there for you. And like at the end of the day, like my girlfriend now, I just feel she really understands.
Who wears the pants right now?
I think it's 50-50. Yeah, we're pretty good. She's very intelligent. She's very well read. She listens to audiobooks any kind of spare second that she's got, and I really kind of love that about her, and we can discuss things and debate without getting angry at each other. And
my wife and I are the opposite. I mean, we actually have a lot of laughs, but if anyone saw our relationship through like a glass window or something like that, they would think that we want to rip each other's heads off sometimes. But we're both
if it gets icy, we kind of just walk away.
Oh yeah, no, it rarely ever gets icy. But she's Italian, and I probably was Italian in another life. But I think the most important thing is what you're sharing is like not just only are men and women different, but every single person's different. And I think the most important thing is if you just look at the results that you're getting in your life, and that could be like in your relationship. If you're thriving, not just you, but your wife or partner's thriving, then that can work.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is from my experience of working with relationship coaches, marriage counselors. When I was engaged for 5 years, and I saw a marriage counselor in the end of that relationship to figure out, okay, can we make this work? And then I worked with a relationship coach who's actually coming on the podcast here tomorrow, Camille, and she helped me not make the same patterns and fall for things, and really understand how to I guess find the right partner, not just fall in love with somebody, but really go.
If you find the right partner, you want to put effort into making her happy, right?
100%.
So my girlfriend sent me a book. We've gotten into Blinkist, right? So book summaries.
They're book summaries, yeah.
Book summaries. So if there's something that you don't really want to devote 5-10 hours to, summary of it, right? She sent me a book called She Comes First. Okay. Mate, There is some stuff that you can learn, mate. I'm telling you right now.
Have you read I was speaking to my dad about this. Unfortunately, he's just about to go through his second divorce. Yeah. And there's the book that literally changed my life. I think every man and woman should read this book. If you do, you're going to understand how to thrive in a relationship, and you'll have very successful relationships. If you don't, you'll always misunderstand the other sex, not just consciously what they're saying, but as we know with women, a lot of the times they say one thing, but actually, and it's not a neg in any way. This is the beautiful part of a woman is she constantly wants that. They might be complaining about one thing, but underneath it could be something completely different, right?
Yeah.
So the book it's called The Way of the Superior Man, and it's not in any way, shape, or form about man being superior. It's about that man in himself being being the best version of himself, and understanding how to navigate women and business and intimacy and things like that. And it talks a lot about the primal things that men and women need, and it even goes into masculinity and femininity being core essences and saying a whole bunch of stuff. But that book itself,
women are naturally empaths, right? Like they kind of really feel kind of empathy towards a lot of situations or people or whatever else, and I found, I mean, personally, and a lot of men are more fact driven. Like
men are logical.
We don't care. We try to be
more
like
emotional.
And it sometimes logic hurts, and sometimes it can be a bit rough, And I have had conversations before where I've
you
really driven.
look like someone who is like me, who's
I've just
it
been
comes
like,
with the OCD as well.
this is
It's
actually
very analytical.
This is
and just
actually
this is exactly how it is. It's factual, and it's like
well, and then that's led to further conversation where you can't. It's not technically. I've not allowed to say that something is 100% factual.
Yes,
because you can also link emotion into it, and like that, mate. This could be a 6-hour podcast about world current events and all that kind of thing, and yes, it would be very up and down the conversation because there's so many different perspectives that I've learnt because I never look at anything one-sided. If I'm to give you my true opinion on something, I will look at the left, the right, the center, the back, the front, every single perspective.
I think you need to do that to come to. I think that's when you're truly someone who has a high value on truth. Mm-hmm. Like I have very strong opinions, but I'm also someone who spends a lot of time, and I'm completely open. Like we could have different opinions on different things, and I won't be just like, I can't wait to convince him something different. I'd be genuinely excited to see if I might be able to learn something.
Yeah.
I still believe what I believe, but I'm open to my opinion being changed. And I think a lot of people really
Takes a lot though, right?
A lot of people, well, you know what?
Once you've solidified your factual kind of opinion, you really have to have someone at a level that can give you new information that might be able to sway your...
Oh, yes. I'm not going to just be swayed with something that's just bullshit.
Willy-nilly.
Because I'm a bit of a nerd with stuff. So
no way, I'm a nerd too, man.
Yeah.
Yay.
So it's just like
nerds unite.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I literally failed every piece of school. I mean, I didn't finish high school. Then I went to trade school. I got kicked out of trade school. You have to be pretty bad to get kicked out of trade school. So I got kicked out. Didn't finish that either.
Yeah.
And I literally up until my early or mid-20s, I literally thought that I'm stupid. And I didn't know how to learn. I had a learning disability.
Well, I'm telling you right now, mate, you're a very intelligent soul.
Thank you.
You can be very proud.
But yeah, I think a lot of that's come from more so just talking to people. When I was a personal trainer, as I said at the start, like a lot of my clients were worldly.
School isn't for everyone.
Yes,
do you know what I mean?
And it wasn't for me.
To be honest with you, I think that there's, as time moves forward, I think that people will understand and curriculums and whatnot will change because you've got to really kind of...
For the workforce. They're not made for entrepreneurship. They're not made to even see you thrive.
Have you seen Gattaca?
I didn't think so.
Yes, go see Gattaca. See what that's all about. It's basically a dystopian future. I can't remember what the main actor is.
It's a movie, is it?
It's a movie.
Okay.
Very cool movie. Kind of akin
Sounds
to like
familiar.
Blade Runner vibes.
Yeah.
It's about DNA testing and getting analysis of people's basically internal... They know basically what job you're going to be doing as you get older based on your DNA.
Well, funnily enough, you say that. This is not as technical as that, but there's something that's called human design, which is like a very hyper in-depth personality kind of...
The actor, Ethan something.
Ethan Hawke?
Ethan Hawke, that's it.
I have a feeling... by the way, I love watching movies, and I've always loved going to the movies. I go to the movies by myself, and people think that I'm like weird or something. The thing I love about going to the movies, especially by myself, even if I could go,
you have to be a certain soul to do that. And I've gone to the movies by myself many times.
I've probably gone 50 times or 100. I've gone more by myself than I have with other people.
Yeah.
Partly because when I've had my own business since I was like 20, maybe earlier. For a while there I had a job, but pretty much since I've been like very young.
Yeah.
And so I've always had time to go, number one, and been flexible in time. But number two, and I also was hungover and coming down a lot for the first 10 years, so I had to do something with my time. But I would go to the movies because you can't be on your phone in there. Yeah. No one can contact you. It's dark, so I'm in terms of like being overstimulated.
Yeah, man. It's peaceful.
It's peaceful. I've got one big screen, nothing too thing to get focused in. And for me, I had a lot of struggles with just understanding.
Do you pray?
I don't. Kind of. I like as in.
Do you have a little moment to yourself?
Every morning, every single. When I say I won't pray.
Because when I say pray, it means, for me, praying is just like a little moment of meditation.
I meditate every single day, and like I was just sharing, I'm not sure if you watch my stories on Instagram, but I was just sharing that whenever I'm doing something, and I'm trying to create a new path, because I've changed not careers, but pathways many times, and anytime I'm doing something new, such as even the podcast, I'll generally pray and ask for guidance, not necessarily to like the bearded man upstairs.
Yeah,
mine's more like a spiritual connection.
So
and
it's
intuition.
a moment of gratefulness. Yeah, gratefulness, and kind of like a lot of the time, my aunt actually just got diagnosed with lung cancer, which is pretty sad. And she discovered that she had that lung cancer moved up into her brain, and she had a little chunk of her brain removed, which is extremely.
It's amazing they can even do that.
Yeah, so she's pulling through. She's a very important person in my life. But
she's here in Australia.
Yeah, she's staying with her daughter right now. Yeah, she's recovering. But at the same time, like, it just makes me think, like, when I have my moments, when I'm praying, which meditating or whatever, I always think about other people as well, because I really want everyone else around me to be around as long as possible, so that my life is as good and as happy as it's always been with those people that I love around me.
Yeah, just kind of like my dad said
when
to
they
me,
start dropping off, and the world, it feels like the world's changing so much. It's like, and being OCD and being kind of somewhat ADD as well, it really screws with your head. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, things are changing, man. Like, is this like, is someone changing the simulation? Do you know what I mean? Is something going on that like is not the same? It's when something changes for me, it's like a big thing,
Well, that does lend itself, just to give you a bit of
you're going to diagnose me, right?
Do you know what neurodivergency is?
No.
So before they used to have like, basically there was Asperger's, there was autism, and then there's like, okay, there's a spectrum. And what they realized more recently is that, and again, I'm not an expert, but I know a little bit about it, is neurodivergency just means it's neuro, it's your brain, and divergent just means that it's different. It's a different way of thinking.
Well, that's what my partner told me the other day. She goes, David, it's almost like you have...
It's a completely different way of looking at the world.
I have a whole bunch of things that seems like I'm a bit ADD.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm a bit autistic.
Yes.
It seems like I'm a little bit, well, usually
depressed. If the shoe fits, right?
I'm a little bit of everything, man. And she goes, David, like, that's why I like you, because she just analysed me first when we first met. Yeah. She just barely knew me, and she goes, you are this. First time in my life, I've just gone, I love you.
Yeah. So, someone who finally understands me, accepts me, and
like I was like, bang, you just get me.
Yeah.
What can I do to be with you forever? Do you know what I mean? Like, in that way. Oh. So nah, man, she's so cool.
My wife is she's also like me in the sense that she's neurodivergent. But essentially what you're saying is, for neurodivergent people, any change feels extremely jolting, and it feels very.
It stresses you out.
It stresses you out. So I mean, for me, the biggest thing that's helped me over my life is, just to backtrack, went up my poor ex. When I was at like I hadn't done this deep work that I've done the last kind of 7 years. I mean, I dated her probably from 25 to 30 or something like that, or 31, and I wasn't the great man that I am today, and I can say that confidently. I still had the essence of who I was and a beautiful heart, but I just could not cope, and And to the point where if we would go to a cafe, my OCD was so bad I would change seats multiple times. Like I would be like, okay, no, this isn't the perfect seat. It was like, or it was very inflexible. So it was like that was a goal of mine, just for 1 year, just become more flexible. Every time I would change something, and that sounds like crazy for other people to potentially.
That's a big topic of discussion between me and my girlfriend right now. Is that I need to be more flexible and need to learn to adapt.
Well, the neurodivergency lends itself to wanting everything to be exactly the way that it is.
Always has, yeah.
And so, to stretch a comfort zone, there's something that's called a disconfirming experience. So if a confirming experience is I thought this was going to happen and this is what happened, a disconfirming experience is I thought this was going to happen and this didn't happen. So when we're trying to grow as a person or even a child or whatever, it's important to prove our mind wrong, which kind of sounds weird, but a lot of times our mind just comes with bullshit stuff. Oh, this thing could happen. That's what anxiety is, right? It's a perception that if I was
taking medication for anxiety for a while there after the bachelorette. That was had a huge effect on me. But yeah, what you're mentioning now is about training your mind, and the beauty about what you're saying is that we have to understand that those neuron pathways in our brain and the complexity of the brain is so special that no matter what adversity you go through, no matter what trauma you go through, and a lot of the time these days there's a new thing called EMDR, I think it is.
I've done it.
Yeah, it's really great.
It's unbelievable.
I had that done after the bachelorette, after I had extreme anxiety.
I had it done over my daughter because I wasn't coping with the crying, and now I'm able to cope with it. And even speaking,
so the pathways are retrained. You can change the mind. It is a super malleable muscle, and it's so complex that there's a lot of things that can be fixed that people don't think can, and including 100%. Things like the effects on limbs and body and spine and speech and everything. We just really have to believe in ourselves and have that grit and have the belief in ourselves, but also work with people that are experts to help you understand that we as humans are made to heal. As well,
we've got naturally healing things in us, and I think, as I was saying at the start of the podcast, like a big reason for having this is I think that step one in starting your healing to become a better man, better husband, better leader, better father, whatever the thing is, we all as men, if we're honest with ourselves, every single man wants to be the man. Like, not saying you need to be the man out there, but you want to be proud of yourself. You want to be acknowledged. Absolutely. You want to feel like you're a good human in society, 99.99% of people. But we just get so busy with life and we don't feel like if you don't have other people around you that are changing, then I think a lot of people just think, well, this is just who I am, or it's too hard, or this, that. I think it's I think the grit is great to just get through life and go and move through challenges. But I think the most important thing is also just being a part of conversations where you can be exposed to new ideas so that you can start to, as we were saying about the worldly mind, if this is the lens that I look through at life and it's like this circle, as we listen to different conversations and whatnot, you can start to expand that and have, instead of like a 2D perception of how things are, really create a that worldview, that 3D, 4D, 5D thing. And now you can start to look at your situation from a whole nother perspective, which allows you to obviously, move through it. So whether it's a business challenge, a personal challenge, a relationship challenge, education to me is the number one.
And the world can educate you as well. You don't need just school or school at all sometimes, It's this actually really goes back to and reminded me of something that I've always told myself from late teens, and that is you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
I've always been of that philosophy. I think that it's been extremely beneficial for my life. When I was modelling, and I got to visit and was very grateful to visit so many beautiful countries and cities around the world. I remember specifically in New York when I was there for a whole year, I used to walk past this homeless guy every single day to the same agency that I was going to. And first it started off, yes, I was smoking back then, so I was having a dart, and the guy used to ask me for a dart, and we struck up.
Do you remember when smoking was cool?
Man, I was part of the Kate Moss era, so, smoking darts and doing other things was kind of cool, but, maybe not anymore these days. But vapes, but I think vapes are even worse than ciggies.
There's a show right now on
Vapes
Netflix
fuck
called
your brain, man.
Big Vape or something. It's just flat out. I mean, we're obviously talking. My wife is all into organic and essential oils, and we're talking about this downstairs when we're having coffee together because David kindly gave me this as a gift.
Well, that's as organic as I could make it. I know, with still making it accessible in the commercial market.
100%.
So there has to be a preservative, but it's half of the ingredients that you'd get from competitors.
But the reason why I brought that up is because the amount of chemicals that are in even just deodorant and it's like sprays and stuff like that, they're really bad for you to put on your body. And I can only imagine like vaping. To me, I've done it probably like a couple of times, but that's about it. I quit smoking years ago. But it's like it's nuts. They were basically on the Netflix. They were talking about the massive marketing campaign that they did.
Was that was the Juul thing?
The Juul, where they made it into like a fashion accessory.
They were cool looking vapes.
And that's the whole point is that like they kind of made they basically copied what Big Tobacco had done, the exact same campaign where they made it lifestyle and like got influencers and things. Like it went from its origination, which was supposed to like help people and get them off cigarettes into actually just promoting like just this brand new product, which really had nothing to do with helping people and was just a multi-billion dollar,
It's crazy. And then I remember they had an app, then Apple blocked that app, and then Android blocked it as well because it apparently could tell you how many vapes you'd had or whatever else, blah, blah, blah. So there was a whole... And then the courts decided that Juul was marketing to kids.
Exactly.
So it was... And then
it's
it all
not
just went
exactly
south.
the original design was to help people get off smoking. No, they're not trying to get off smoking. You're trying to get people to smoke as many of these as physically
apparently
possible.
Apparently most of the vapes that you get in the shops these days, there's probably about... Since in the last year, I've seen at least 5, 8, maybe even 10 vape shops open up on Chapel Street.
Yeah, Chapel, yeah.
And they're apparently all imported vapes from China or from wherever that aren't approved by the government. So they're trying to...
I don't watch the news too much, but I thought they were like illegal or something.
Yeah, something's happening.
Or something's illegal, but something's not illegal.
They'll probably just tax them, mate, and get some more money in the bank.
Yeah. So that's actually a good segue. So, I mean, going into the theme of the podcast, making men great again. We've talked today about grit. We've talked today about like some of the things that you've had to overcome in your life. One, starting out in obviously going through what your family went through and back in Eastern Europe, then coming here. Then you've had the whole bullying saga for a whole bunch of years. Mm-hmm. Then you've become this, famous or semi-famous model or however you want to talk about, travel the world.
I'd say a good D-grade celeb, like for a little while there.
Well, for local Australia, the way I looked at the modelling industry was like, there's your A game guys. They fucking get everything. Bastards. Then there's...
Well, it'd have to be in New York to get all that big stuff.
Are you Australia famous for the model? I mean, you were basically winning all the jobs that all the other dregs like me couldn't get it. But you've gone through that, and that's like, that I would imagine probably built up some confidence in you.
I needed it. After all that bullying, I really needed
Sticking
it.
to those motherfuckers back in school.
I even ran into one of the guys that used to bully me out the front of Baroque House when I was promoting there. And he was in line. He was probably about 15 metres down, waiting to get into Baroque House. And I was like, hey, man. And he called out, and he's actually,
hey, David, can you
get me in? And the first thing that crossed my mind, I was like, you were such an asshole to me in school.
Yeah.
But what I did was I got him out of the line, got him to the front, and let him in, and then gave him a couple of
kindness.
Gave him a couple of free drink cards, and off he went. So it made me feel good, like, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to dwell on the past too much because lately I've heard if you think too much about the future, you've got
that's anxiety. If you look at the past,
depression. Be present, right? So,
and that's why they call it being present, because it's truly a gift.
That's it.
And I think going back to
fist bump you with that one.
Yeah, we still feel fist bump. Going back to like the things like meditative practicing like that for me, it's so important to stay. And that's what I was saying about the gaps that I put in between meetings. Now I don't take as many things on. I'm also very much more protective with my energy around who I spend time with, because I'm when you're neurodivergent, you're much more sensitive to energy. That's why everything's much more overwhelming, because it's like everything is high. It's called high sensory. Yeah. So you can imagine that it lends itself to being sensitive, high sensory to everything. Noise. You said light before. Sure. For me, light is a big thing. Light, sounds, all that type of stuff. So that's like where we're at. Then you went through the whole kind of bachelor thing, so you can see these obstacles that turned out to be opportunities for you to really meet the trueness of yourself and get to have the pain
become more mentally strong.
Yeah,
as well.
Build that grit. I truly think that obstacles are opportunities to grow. We grow through what we go through. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, cool. Fasting forward to where you are right now, you've got Estetica, you're
a state sales manager for alcohol distribution
company.
And that position was, it was a tough one to get up to, and I'm very happy with the company that I'm with right now. So that is my main kind of motivation right now, to succeed in that, and then obviously still have further goals from that. But Estetica is a little side hustle, and I've always said that's it's going to be a slow burn. Play? It's a long-term plan, but slow burn. Like I want to do it right. I want to do it for me first. I don't want to sell anything to anyone without it being something that I love first. And I really have so many goals with that for the future. And, the one thing that's holding me back right now is a bit of imposter syndrome, which is I've kind of been afraid to go online or on the Estetica page and be like, hey, this is what I made for us. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you should say that. It's scary putting yourself out line, man.
I shit myself, but I have to do it because I've got, the second batch just came in. First one sold through over 500 units. This one now is another 500 units, and people love it.
Well, I told you, I saw it. You obviously know Paul Nugent from Neptune.
Yes.
So obviously you know Paul. Shout out to Paulie, legend, bloke. Yeah. I actually met him when I used to DJ at The Saint, when he owned The Saint. But I spent many fantastic time at Neptune, best restaurant, one of the best restaurants in Melbourne, in Prahran. Mm-hmm. But I went to the bathrooms there just for the toilet.
Neptune's banging. I love that place.
It's the best. By the way, best steak. Their steak there is unbelievable. Yeah. Sliced up. Anyway, best steak.
Highly recommend Neptune, guys.
Highly recommend Neptune. Shout out to Paulie.
If you're in Windsor.
But I saw it in there because I'd seen you online, obviously talking, doing little snippets, and I was like, oh, cool! It's awesome to see that he's doing it. But with business, whether you're a coach or whether you own this, like you're obviously general manager of and the Spirit Company, which I'm sure has an element of sales in it, right? And
I do have a general manager, but we have I'm head state sales manager.
State sales
manager. But yeah, it's kind of tied in because I'm actually kind of speaking to a lot of hospitality venues that need hand washing.
But do you find it? My question for you is, and I think I know the answer, but I want to ask you anyway. Do you find it different to walk up to a company or an organization need to talk to for the spirit stuff, the alcohol, versus you talking about this and promoting this stuff? Is it equally the same, or is that what you just Oof, do you know what I'm saying?
That's a tough.
Because you mentioned imposter syndrome before, because you've obviously got the skills of sales and communication and conversation and
this conversation always happens in my own time, which is kind of usually after hours.
Yes.
Because a a lot of the venues that I go to after hours that I love, aka Neptune, they're within the vicinity of my home. That conversation is always struck up in the evenings.
Over a wine,
yeah. So and then people are just like, dude, why didn't you tell us before?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's awesome.
And you're going, fuck, why didn't I tell him?
Yeah,
maybe I...
Yeah. And it's been, we actually ended up going through the courts with Aesthetica for a little while there because we ended up suing our cosmetic chemist.
Okay.
Because we paid over $10,000, maybe even $12,000 to formulate the initial mist.
Okay.
And world first formula, hyaluronic acid, even one drop into 100 ml of water actually turns into gel. So you couldn't mist it. So we found a way to turn it into so it's a bit more viscous. Viscous?
I don't know.
So it's a bit more watery. A bit more watery.
So I know viscosity.
Yeah, so it could spray. And basically what happened was she didn't want to, because we going to take it to the commercial filler, and she didn't want to give us the formula. I was like, whoa. We just paid you like 10, 12 grand to formulate this from scratch. It was my idea. I had it from,
She probably wanted to keep it for herself and then mass market it to a bunch of different brands rather than having it exclusively for you.
I had it written down in a little book that I had from when I was traveling from 2009, right?
By the way, if you didn't know you were neurodivergent, now you should know. I had a book and talking about viscosity. I was writing to myself what I was going to put in my...
and I was like, I really liked what this person had.
Yeah.
I want to do this version of it.
See, yeah.
I had I've got pictures in this book of like ideas that I've wanted to execute that never eventuated.
Yeah.
Like leather jackets with like this like campaign of like a dude in a NASA helmet, right? With his helmet.
I wasn't sure where we're going to go there. I thought this is going to get... No. This could go down a whole...
Just really weird stuff like in this book, and I was just flipping through it the other day because I found it at my parents' place, and I was like, wow, this is not normal.
So what you're saying, but essentially, like, you're talking about just things of design and ideas. And that, aesthetic,
it was always design, ideas, things that I wanted to build or create.
You've seen, if you're grabbing the world and you're into fashion and all that, you're going to, the leather jacket was probably inspired by a jacket that you saw somewhere. Or something. Yeah. By the way, their stuff's amazing. So obviously the word aesthetica, that's about aesthetically pleasing.
That's it.
It's not a real word. I made it up.
It's totally made up word.
Yeah. But it's that it's marketing. You can kind of feel that
marketing wise starts with an A, finishes with an A. It's a punchy word.
Yeah.
Aesthetica. The motto for Aesthetica, I wanted, because we sourced the fragrance from Paris actually, and the actives were from Switzerland. So it's actually a super, it's an ultra premium product.
Yes.
But the whole idea behind it was to try and make it as approachable as possible, so that more people could have it, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that charging $39 really for a hand wash is obscene.
Yeah.
But it's the current market. You've got to kind of work. You can't place yourself too low because you look cheap. You can't place yourself too high because you look like...
a lot of marketing, a lot of sales is perceived value. So if you buy a Louis Vuitton bag, the bag itself, I bought my wife one for, what was it, birthday or something? I don't know, it's $3,000 or something like that. It's not even freaking leather. I was like, you kidding me? This bag isn't leather, it's canvas. I'm like...
half of that, I heard a thing about a lot of their stuff is still... mostly made in China, and then they finish it off in Italy, and then they say that it's made in Italy.
I don't know. I don't know what. Look, at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit. I think it looks.
It doesn't matter. But
she loves it. It's fantastic. I love my wife, and I don't like. I'm into fashion. I don't mind spending money on.
You got a pretty nice watch, then, mate.
Thank you. I don't mind spending a bit of money on stuff, But yeah, it's perceived value. So if there's like you've got a slick bottle, even the fact that it's got, even the fact that you tell a story, it's this thing's from Paris, this thing's from here.
Yeah,
that's.
Well, I wanted a bespoke bottle as well. That wasn't really worth doing because a lot of the holders for a lot of venues are already
I was going to say it depends on who you're marketing to.
Measurement, So I had to kind of adapt to the current market, but also have a product so that people understood that it was unisex. A lot of people still say that it kind of looks a bit more guyish, but you know, like for me, black and white is unisex. That was my goal from day dot. We went as far as to have a look at this. Even the designer went through the barcode, and we manipulated the barcode so that the font was the same as the actual writing on here.
That's a very OCD thing to do.
And the barcode, and normal barcodes are huge, right?
Yeah.
So we trimmed it down and made it into that rectangular spot,
it's all part of. It's like some Steve Jobs type shit.
Part of aesthetics.
It's all a part of the aesthetics. Love it. So Grit. Now you've got this brand, and you're also doing this stuff here. Like, what for you? I mean, you shared a little bit of this before. The things that you've used. To become the better version of yourself is like gratitude. You do prayer. You do things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were to take it away, the perception off you for a second, and just talk about men in general, and we're talking about a little bit about this offline. What do you feel like looking at society these days? Looking at the government, looking at mass media, looking at all of the different things. What do you think that, in your opinion, which is going to be different to other people's opinion, we're not even saying that it's right, but what is your opinion on what you feel in society that we need to do as men for ourselves and for other men in this day and age in order to make men feel, number one, be great again, but also really feel safe to just even want to be great again, if that kind of makes sense in the landscape that we've kind of got these days.
There's a whole bunch of things. I mean, first and foremost, treat others like you'd like to be treated yourself. That's a very important thing.
That one from Christianity was the staple for me.
No, it's
do
huge.
unto others as you want it. It's not complicated stuff. Don't cheat.
Yeah.
Don't steal. Yeah. Don't lie. Yeah. You know, don't be a greedy
and it's such
arsehole.
And it's such an old book, right? But it still has so much value.
Because wisdom is, these are just things that doesn't, take a rocket scientist to.
And you don't have to. You can disregard the religious side of that.
There's still lessons
as well.
and wisdom.
It's just lessons, right? So, and a lot of laws these days all around the world are still based on pretty much a modified version of the Ten Commandments. And those kind of lessons, right? So, I mean, to make men great again. I mean.
You kind of need to look. You need to look at what are the problems.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think that to be the best man, let's put it this way: to be the best man that you can be is never let your emotions override your intelligence. A lot of men can have.
What if you're not that intelligent?
Well, yeah, well, you got me there.
Because I mean, you're into. Right, you're saying I love this girl because she reads books and she does this.
I think everyone can kind of be conscious about how to behave in front of others, and when you go to dinner at someone's house and you want to respect them, you kind of step up, right? You step up and are respectful to the people around you and whatnot. It's the same way you should act towards your colleagues and friends and whatever else, blah, blah, blah. I think, and I'm not saying become a stiff, but at the same time, I feel act to others how you'd like them to act towards you, like in that respect. But also as a man, be confident that you can achieve what you put your mind to as well. And that's part of the grit thing.
Yeah.
Remember, if you've gone through any adversity, you can also train your mind to get over it and become and move into a better space.
You said before you'd done an EMDR. You said you also do some different meditative practices.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the things that you've done to improve yourself over the last 5 years? Obviously, it got so bad at a point after The Bachelor that you had to you felt the like it was you needed to take some medication, and you're not on anything anymore.
No.
So you've obviously overcome that, and you've traded medication with tools. There's a lot of guys that will listen to this that may not relate to your story of modelling, may not relate to.
I take a concoction of vitamins and all that kind of jazz.
Nootropics.
Yeah.
They might, like a grain of salt. I think it was you said before. But what they might relate to is going through challenges. And so
what are some of the things that you do in this current climate now, or to look after your mental health?
Gym is huge for me.
How often do you go? What do you do?
I mean, I did stop for a little while last year, and it annoyed me, and I felt like I was kind of going into a pretty bad.
I can't.
Kind
Exercise
of physical.
for me is like I'm a different person. I'm so much happier.
So from you know how people do their New Year's resolutions. This last year, I'd never stuck to them in the past.
Yeah.
Really, everyone says them and then they never do them. Mate, I have literally stuck to my word from the 1st of January and gone to the gym. I said, go to the gym minimum 2 to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done.
Awesome.
So
and you're not trying to become the world's, next Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
You're doing it for a mixture of
well, I injured
looks,
my back.
health, mindset.
Yeah, I had 2 herniated discs on my L4, L5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's created that's why I didn't go to the gym last year, right?
Gotcha.
It was a lot of issues with going to the gym, running, all that kind of stuff. So we've got to do some low intensity stuff. So started doing elliptical, bike, the arm thing and biking. So that's usually my big 15 kind of minute, 20 minute workout, as intense as I can go.
Yeah.
Intensity is obviously a lot less than what I was when I was 25,
Yes.
but it's great. It really gets the kind of heart rate up, gets me sweaty. And then I try to do my workout within 45 minutes to an hour to try and keep that heart rate up. And usually I had a mate who I was modeling with in LA. He was just absolutely beautifully balanced, ripped, if you know what I mean. So good upper body, good core, good legs, like Brazilian guy. He did a lot of cardio, but a lot of what's it called when you use your body?
Like just body weight exercises or functional? You mean
restricted something. Anyway, whatever.
You mean like what do they call it? Just slipped my mind. Anyways, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. You guys know what we're talking about.
Those people that hang off the bars and they do the different things.
So he did a lot of that stuff, and he
aesthetic. It's called
body weight stuff.
Yeah. Body weight stuff. It's like fuck, it's killing me. Anyways.
So this was bound to happen after a while.
That's all right.
So I've been doing a lot of that, but then also just free weights and a few machines, and I have a 3-day rotational workout from this guy. Was extremely motivational and inspiring for me when I was living with him.
Yeah.
Try to eat as healthy as possible, but also cut out a lot of junk food and stuff like that. But then also just recently watched that Netflix show Live to 100. Did you say that?
I saw it, and then
so good.
What is it? They've got those blue zones and different things. What's interesting is though, because I was vegan for a while, and I've watched a lot of these. I'm big into health, and even though I've done the extreme thing many times, but somebody like debunked that.
The blue zone thing. Oh no, vegan.
I was vegan. What the point the point of mentioning that is they have shows like Cowspiracy and all these other things, and again, a bit like the Bachelorette. There's agendas by the people who make the shows, and they clip it the way that they want it to be seen. So I think
there's going to be something for and against every single thing.
Always. So I mean, that show, I watched it. I think there's a lot of stuff in there. What I didn't like, the only thing I didn't like, and having been vegetarian and vegan and been down that road, I think not every single body, but you need to eat to your body and see how you feel. But I am a big believer in eating grass-fed and organic
for sure.
meat and poultry and fish. Whereas
that's logical for me.
Yeah, but in the show they lean more towards, okay, if you want to live over to 100, you need to eat vegetarian. That's what 4 of the 5 of these blue zones do.
I actually did. That's right.
Yeah. So,
I didn't even notice that. When I watched it, I was like,
because I was big on I was full on vegan for a while.
It did. Something did go off in my head when he said that it's that it's good to be vegetarian. But
because
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of value in eating red meats and a lot of fats.
Yes.
Are extremely good for you.
What they did say in there, though, that I thought was very interesting, and it's something that I've been consciously trying to focus on the last couple of years, is they said that one of the key defining things in all of these places, they were very community focused. Number one, so that love
Absolutely.
and because number one, if we want to talk about stress, well, number one, if you're feeling more loved, you have more connection in your life.
Yep.
You have more stress and you have more things that are not just work and like progress related.
Yep.
Family and love and connections and friends and family. And I share this because a lot of people watch your show. You know, I just had the last guest on, Dave, and he talked about how he got cancer, and he believes, and I believe too, that he got it because he was stressed because of work, and he said that blah blah blah. I think we all feel like that's a can that we tend to kick down the road, like.
Yeah.
And I think family and connection with people.
Well, that's why
a lot of men get very isolated as they get older. They get more and more busy with and more responsibilities, and less time for friends and less time for things. So the one thing was community. The second thing that I loved that they shared was community. Oh, and just the fact of purpose. So that they never actually, a lot of them never retire.
Yeah.
So they're always
just working their whole life.
And the Japanese talk about that. They have a word
Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Yeah.
And the whole point is it doesn't have to be your job. You could do it outside of hours. Like you've got this, right?
Yep.
It's something that you're working towards. You know, have you heard of like when let's say elderly people, both live into their 90s.
Yep.
And then one dies, and within a few months, the other one dies because they no longer have a purpose. And what is a purpose? It's a reason for doing something.
Yep.
And so when people retire in the Western society, everyone's trying to have been programmed. You pay off your house, you get a good job, and you have a 401k, or in Australia, you've got your, whatever the fuck they call it.
Yep.
And like that's actually going against what's actually going to help you thrive. What's actually going to help you thrive is having community, having a purpose and a reason for living that is more than just a job. It can be a job.
Yep.
But that's what I got. That's taking the grain of salt.
Yeah,
I didn't agree with all of it.
And it's a concoction of a whole bunch of things. But I mean, coming from Eastern Europe, I looked at a lot of that stuff and I was just like,
of course,
dude, this is what we've been doing for 1,000 years.
But that's not a Western. You wouldn't call that a Western culture, though, would you?
Nah. I'd call it being poor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so where I'm from in southeastern Poland, where I was born, it's extremely isolated. It's landlocked.
Yeah.
People didn't have a lot of money, but all they ate was natural. They had milk straight from the cow.
Yes. They're living off the land more.
Local meats, local off the land.
Yes.
Like they did a lot of gardening.
They killed the neighbour's cow or something.
They did a lot of gardening. They did a lot of physical work without knowing that they were doing a lot of physical work.
Incidental gardening and cleaning.
Natural honey, raw honey.
Yeah.
They had a big community because they were part of religious groups.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So they had those people backing them.
This is actually a great kind of way to kind of wrap things up as well, because I think like if you really think about what I believe that makes men great again is really living by much more. And I'm like, I would, if you look at my lifestyle, you wouldn't say this person's a simple person, but in terms of the values
we are
that
Crown Towers, mate.
Exactly. So. In a suite, I live a simple life. Yeah. No, I like to live. I like to have I want to have an extraordinary life. That's what I want to have. But the values to which I make decisions around and the way that I actually live it, besides the kind of more businessy stuff, is really about like those simple values. Like we've got a little veggie patch now at home.
Awesome.
And just being much more conscious of wanting to have
so
connection.
much time in the gardens, so it's my thing. Like I'd like
just like my wife said, I want to have a place with a garden. I'm like, I don't care, like whatever.
I got friends that come over, they're hungover or whatever. These days, I'm just like, oh wait, I've just literally planted all this mondo grass. Like to try and beautify the garden or whatever. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think we've got a call from Crown saying, "Hey guys, this podcast's going to go all day if you don't."
This is the buzzer,
if
mate.
you don't if you don't finish it up. So, dude, just wanted to say a massive thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule between your business and your job and your girlfriend, all that stuff. It's also great just to hang out and get to know. It's funny when you sit across from someone who
it's been a while, right?
Yeah, where you kind of know someone, you've spoken to them, you've hung out with them, but you really don't know their full story. And it's really beautiful. And it's funny that so many people who I've ended up inviting on, I'm like, this person's so much like me.
You resonate, right?
Resonate on so many things. It's probably actually why it's attracted me to ask certain people. But cool. Thank you so much for sharing so openly and honestly your journey. As I said at the start, the purpose of me doing these things is so that other people out there who don't fit the normal mold, that there might be a voice for them. Other people who, like for Dave, the guy who was on before, had another David, 2 Davids today.
Yeah.
If they can see themselves in the guest situations, then that can give them that perspective of potentially what to do to go through it, as well as the tools and just that permission to go, it's okay to be me. For me, being always feeling different to everybody else, knowing that I'm a fucking awesome person, but struggling to navigate life, being different and being different to the norm. It's like everyone else is doing this, but I don't like doing that. I don't like watching the footy.
We are all just winging it, mate.
We're all just winging it. But I think for me, the biggest thing was just really feeling okay to be different and to be myself. So it's fun to meet other people that are a little bit weird and wacky like me, and
I'm
to really
stoked that you're doing
and to
this.
really own that. And I think if we can show more men that what a great man doesn't have to be. You can be into fashion and have a brand and have a barcode like this, and you can travel the world and be a model and also be stoic and also be masculine and also be, it's not just this is the one way that society tells you need to be.
You don't have to be a blokey bloke.
You don't have to be a blokey bloke. And I think if you are that blokey bloke, you don't have to feel bad about that too. In no way am I going to make that guy's great. I am many times envied and would wanted to be that type of guy.
Mate, I've been out with all my gay friends so many times, do you know what I mean? And we have had the sickest time just like out enjoying ourselves, and I get to show somewhat of my feminine side as well, when we're out, because it's that kind of masculine kind of energy is not as much there,
Yes.
And
I know. By the way, I know some. I know some gay guys that are like more
super masculine.
Super masculine.
Yeah.
Buff and like super masculine and like very successful.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just want to say thanks for your time. It was awesome to connect. Thanks for the little prezi.
No worries.
And
enjoy.
Yeah, I'll drop links to David's anything that David's doing, Instagram, Aesthetica, if you want to buy any of his products or anything like that, and if you just want to see what he's up to, I'll drop them in the links below, whichever platform that we're on. Other than that,
awesome.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much, mate.
And tune in next week, guys, for another episode, and thanks again for watching.
No worries.
What an awesome episode. And if you want to watch more, just click the button here or here. Watch the next one, and we'll see you soon.